3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by Jack from It's Cool to Cry. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me, Maloney. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm well. You've made the trek from my old stomping ground, Balaclava, man. I love that area, 3183.
That's it, mate. I actually recognise your ghost is still hanging around there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially around the Inkerman Hotel. You'll find my ghost around there.
Yeah, bingo.
Yeah,
You're still getting knocked back at the door.
No, they love me there still. Many times I've been kicked out of there, but they always welcome me back the next day.
Nice one the next day.
Great
nice,
crew
nice.
down there, great crew. So, man, we're going to talk about your personal story. We're going to talk about It's Cool to Cry as well, which you're wearing the hoodie there. Mm-hmm. But, man, I think people might know you from that, but I don't know if they know your full story. So let's talk about yourself and how this whole thing came to be, man.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that intro and giving us a chance to, put mental health out there. That's my shtick, and making these conversations easier for people. To be able to get to where I am now, I have to tell a story, and that story involves some hard issues and some hard topics, namely mental illness and suicide. So that if that's not on your bingo card today, or
it's an important issue to be talking about.
Yeah, or if it's not on the bingo card for the listeners, just take a break. We can go a different route, or take a break and come back. So is that okay if I can continue? Thanks, Maloney. So in my 20s, I was dating a girl called Elle, and Elle was young. She was social. Elle had friends from primary school, high school, uni, mates from work. She was bright. She'd be studying to become a high school teacher. She was caring. She was loved. She has a mum that gave and still gives one of the world's best hugs. And all of those things that we think make up the foundations of a happy, healthy life started to not matter. And they started to not matter really, really quickly.
Was that evident to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Because in a matter of months, Elle went from being the loudest person in the room to not having the motivation or strength to get out of bed, to have a shower, or even to leave the house. And Ellie's mental health declined really, really quickly, and mental illness took over. And despite all of Ellie's best and bravest efforts, at 25, Elle ended up dying by suicide. And this was something now that was in my backyard, whereas previously it might have been on the news or on the other side of town or happening to a friend of a friend. Mm-hmm. And as you can imagine, that was pretty shocking and tragic and devastating. And as Elle was getting sicker and sicker,
Was she seeking help at this time?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yep. She was on the front foot, talking to psychologists, talking to psychiatrists, sharing openly with how she was feeling and how she felt.
So she was making the right moves at that point in time.
All the right moves in that point in time. And in hindsight, which is cruel but I suppose wonderful, we don't know how long Elle had been sick for. And Elle might have been sick for a lot longer than she was leading on, and she might have been able to mask it for a lot longer. And it was in those last 3 months where, the pain had started to overcome her, and the pain became too much, and then the hope started to diminish. And that's when suicide plans and eventually suicide took over. Mm-hmm. So to give Elle the credit, she deserves the credit that she did want to get well. She didn't want to die from suicide, just like people don't want to die from a heart attack, or they don't choose to die from a heart attack. Elle didn't choose to die from suicide. She was really fucking sick. And as she was getting sicker, I wanted to try and figure out ways to better support her, or best support her. And I decided that seeing a mental health professional, a therapist, was the best way to go about this. But before these therapy sessions could start, Elle ended up dying. So these therapy sessions now became a fact-finding mission on what is mental illness. Now, what is suicide? And how does someone like Elle, that bright, bubbly, loving, caring, educated, physically active, social person go from that to taking their own life? And then the second part of it was around grief and grieving and what the hell's this? Mm-hmm. And whilst we might have grieved or been to a couple of funerals for grandparents or older people, what is it now when it's a really close to home and to an intimate partner, romantic partner? And as those therapy sessions went on, I thought I'd tick that box and I'd figured out more about mental illness. I'd satisfied the knowledge gap around suicide and came to terms with the amount of pain that Elle must have been in.
Because you never know what someone's going through in their head. As an observer from the outside, no one knows.
No, because no one's a mind reader, no one knows, mate. And Elle was trying to find the words, and it was quite clear how much pain she was in just with some of the actions that she was taking, the words that she was using, and just seeing the look on her face and the lack of energy that she had and the lack of strength that she once had.
Can I ask a question? Was there a catalyst? Was there a point in time where it changed? Was there any moment that you think is a bookmark where she, you know what I mean? Because I think someone would say, well, why? Which I know we can't answer, but was there something that happened or a point in time that made her change significantly?
It's a really good question. And I met up with one of her best mates, Fletch, a couple of months ago now. He's a psychologist and he'd known Elle a lot longer than I had. And I asked him, mate, like, what was going on? And he didn't know either. Mm-hmm. Because we don't know if Elle got sick rapidly from January and then to March, April, or was there things going on in the background that Elle was really good at hiding from us because she didn't want us to know, and whether that was because she was afraid of judgment, or she didn't want to feel guilty, or she didn't want to feel shameful, or she just wanted to be... didn't protect herself so that she didn't want us to know anything about it. So was there a catalyst moment? I don't know. I don't know, because it might have been a build-up of things. Mm-hmm. It might have been she just got really sick really quickly.
I think with a lot of people, and I can't talk for her, but a lot of people are just very good at masking it for quite a long period of time, and then they get to the point where they can no longer mask it, and that may be where she started telling people, potentially. I don't know, but I think that's a case for a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah, I've lost 4 people close to me to suicide.
Wow.
And for most of those stories, most of those people, and I can talk and mention their names and throughout this podcast, is that no one knew that they were crook. No one knew that they were sick. So what does this tell us about their journey and their deaths? And I picture Bo, one of my best mate's younger brothers, died just over 12 months ago now. No one knew Bo was sick. And what is this telling me about Bo and Bo's mind potentially is that as he was getting sicker and sicker, like he was going up a pain of path, and up this pathway of pain means that he was getting sicker and sicker, and he was in more pain and more pain. And as this was going up, it means that he was then getting further away about speaking about what was going through his head, because as the pain was going up, so was the fear of judgment, so was the guilt, and so was the shame. So by the time Bo got really, really sick, the pain was high, and then so was this fear of judgment. It was too high to start talking about. So when we're talking about masking, if we can, and our own mental health, if we're allowed to talk about our own mental health as soon as possible and undertake help-seeking behaviour as soon as possible before the pain gets too high, before the judgment gets too high, then we're in a better chance to reverse what could be an irreversible situation.
Yeah, and that is the most important thing, I think, to use a term that's used a lot, but you got to nip it in the bud as soon as as you feel like something is taking a downward descent. You need to start talking about it. That's the message to take out of it.
100%. And I run workshops for corporates and clubs, and I try and crystallize really complicated things, which is mental health, into easy to understand bite-sized bits of information so people can go and help themselves. And this one, I might bring this one up right now because this is useful, is that if we think of our mental health on a scale, right? We've used a physical health pain scale in the past. How much does it hurt out of 10? You hit your elbow or stub your toe, whatever it is. And you'll give it a rating out of 10, yeah? So whatever that pain is on that scale, it's your physical health pain scale. And whether it's a 2 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, you get it checked out, because the 2s, they're niggles and they're annoying. And if you don't get it checked out, that's going to become a 3 or a 4.
And everyone has different pain thresholds as well, like they have different mental health.
Bingo.
Right.
And like to your point before, you said nip it in the bud. So this is the 2s and the 3s and the 4s. Yep. Get them there, get them early. Mm-hmm. And we do that for our physical health because it's relevant to us. And my 2 might be your 3 and whatever. And that doesn't matter because it's relevant to me. We get the 8s checked out because if that's a physical health thing and it's an 8 out of 10 in the pain scale, fuck, that could be chronic. That could be something irreversible. That could be really uncomfortable. Let's see how we can make that a 7, a 6, a 5. So let's start thinking about our mental health the same way. Put yourself now on your own mental health pain scale. You own your mental health pain scale. It's relevant to you. No one actually gets to say on how much you're hurting on your physical health pain scale or your mental health pain scale. So whether you're at a 2 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, you get it checked out or you go and do something about it. The 8s, because just like the physical health, could be something chronic, could be something irreversible, could be really fucking painful. So what are we doing to make that a 7, a 6, a 5? And at the other end, which is equally as important, it's about nipping things in the bud. Uh-huh. And don't let things fester. We talk about things when it's a 2, when it's a 3, and when it's a 4. So we can keep it at a 2, or we make the 4s a 3. And it's relevant to us. Our pain scale is relevant to us. And the added importance on this is that because it's our pain scale, we don't have to compare to anyone. Because if I was at 5 on my mental health pain scale right now, and you were a 7, does that mean that I can't speak about my mental health because I've got a lesser pain on pain scale? Yours. Exactly. It's mine. And if I don't talk about it, it'll become a 6. Mm-hmm. Could be a 7, could become an 8. And then if I overtake you, then you can't talk about yours. Yeah. So it doesn't work. So the pain scale is relevant to us.
It does. And it's a really good way of putting it. And for people that you're friendly with, whether it's family and friends, you could say, I could reach out to you and go, mate, I'm at a 7 today. And you go, oh shit, I better give Maloney a call. He's at a 7. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good way to just, without telling people your problems, saying, this is where I'm at today, And it's a bit of a cry for help in a certain, well, not a cry for help, but it's a prompt to say, hey, I could use someone to reach out to.
Yep. And I think what's good about it is that we get to avoid a really unhelpful response, which is fine or okay. How are you? I'm fine. How are you? Okay. They're responses that kind of shut down the conversation. But if you can open up the conversation by saying, how are you out of 10? How are you out of 10? Yep. And people get to say the figure, and then you say, okay, cool. How is that going? Or why is that? Or what's making you the 6? Or what's making you the 7? And you get the conversations going like that. It's also a good way to just, as an entry point, if you're going shit and you are a 7, 8, 9, you can just acknowledge that you're a 7, 8, 9, and the person go, okay, cool. So now I know that you're a 7, 8, 9, rather than you pretending that you're fine or okay, you're already off and running to a better conversation, or at least a better awareness around what each other's going through.
Yeah. And I think, and it's an extremely valid point. I think what a lot of people do struggle with, and maybe this is more males and more older generation, when you say, and I've experienced this myself, that and I didn't use the scale, but I'm just saying I'm in a really bad place, they straight away go to, what's the problem? How do we fix it? you know, and I'm sure you'd see a bit of that. So what they don't understand is sometimes, and I'm sure that with myself personally, there was problems and we could fix them, but that isn't that might be a factor, but that's not the only reason why you're feeling severe depression.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it doesn't make sense. You're just feeling shit out.
Yeah, and this is a great thing to bring up because blokes and me, okay, take an example. I come from a long line of fixers and I'm a recovering fixer. When someone said they had an issue, I'm like, fuck yeah, all hands on deck. How do we fix it? But let's say we've just met and you pour your heart out to me for 90 minutes, an hour and 20, whatever it is, about your thoughts that you've been carrying with you for maybe a month. It could be a year. It could be decades. And I go to you, oh, Maloney, thanks for sharing. Why don't you just do this, this, and this and give you a three bullet point answer on how to fix yourself? What a shit effort that is from me. 1, have I actually listened? 2, have I validated and acknowledged what you're going through? And 3, have I even realised that you've probably thought about those solutions 20 times over? So it's not a really fair way to go about fixing people immediately.
We've got to change that mentality because that is the male way of thinking a lot of the time.
We do. Look, we're not lawnmowers. We're a bit more complicated than that. And sometimes the fixing is done just by being there for that person. Because if that person, mate, if you've picked me, if we're mates and you've picked me to lay everything out there and say things to me that you've never said to me before, maybe never anyone else, that's a big move. You've done so much already just by being there and listening to that person. That's heaps. And that might all be might be what you need at the time. And that could be it. It's like, all right, well, what do you need next? And you might go to me, mate, that was awesome. That's all I needed. And I just need to know that you're there for me next time. Mm-hmm. We don't need the fixing. It's also really unfair on the listener to put that pressure on themselves to fix and problem solve when you're not mental health. We're not mental health professionals. We're mates. We're sons. We're daughters. Whatever we are in that relationship, it shouldn't be on us to go and fix them. It should be on the other person to undertake that help-seeking behaviour and go and fix themselves. But it's too much pressure for the listener to try and come up with answers on the spot. And that's take the pressure off yourselves by just being there to listen and asking the person what they need rather than making it up on the spot and bullshitting ourselves through it. And that makes the listening experience a lot easier for ourselves, and it makes the experience for the other person who's talking a lot better as well because they've not been shoved information down their throat that they didn't ask for.
Mm-hmm. I think in the last few years as a society, we've got better at reach out to your mates, make sure they're okay, which is great. And that's a good step in the right direction. But what I think people need to take into consideration is if you do text your friend or ring them and say, hey, are you okay? Be prepared for them to say, no, I'm not. And then you've got to follow up with that. Because I think that has been normalised a lot. Just text your friends and check on them. But if they say they're not, then you've got to be prepared to help them then, you know?
Yeah, bingo. And it's great. Like last year's theme during Mental Health Month was check in with your mates. Every year, Are You OK Day will roll around, second Thursday of every September. And credit to Are You OK Day. They've rebranded to Are You OK Any Day. And it is on us. Like if we're going to say it, fucking mean it.
You got to follow through.
You got to follow through. And, you know, what does that mean? What is the next question or what is the next?
Be prepared for that because not everyone, and because it's becoming normalised and we're making advancements in people and in particular males being vulnerable. Be prepared by saying, are you okay? That they may say, hey man, I'm not okay.
Yep.
Let's have a chat and be prepared for that next step.
Yeah, and here's the next. I'll give you the cheat sheet. Here's the next step. It's fucking easy. I'm swearing a lot. Is that all right?
Man, it's fine.
Okay, so are you okay? And the fella or the bird says, no, I'm not. All you need to do is that I'm here to listen. How can I best support you?
Yep. Do you want to talk about it? Maybe they don't right then. Maybe they're not ready, but they know you're there.
They know you're there. Then just. And you're there now, that your responsibility then is now to keep checking in because you know that they're not. So if they're your mates, you've got to keep checking in. Now, the other way that this goes is if you fear that they might be suicidal or they might be harming themselves, it is okay. It is okay to ask them if they're thinking about suicide. Have they made a suicide plan? Don't say things like, You're not going to do anything silly, because that will take away what they're thinking, which could be, potentially self-harm. It could be suicide. You're allowed to ask, because if you ask the right question, you're closer to getting the right answer. If you say something like, are you planning on doing something silly?
Which is said a lot. People say that a lot.
It is. And I put my hand up. I've been guilty of it myself. But this is why we've got to learn about getting better at these types of questions, is that if you ask that question, what is the answer to that? Like, how do you even answer that question? But if you say, have you been contemplating suicide? Yes or no. Have you got a suicide plan? Yes or no. Are you going to act on that? Yes or no. We get to make the best plan possible because we've got the best answer possible. You won't put ideas in people's heads, but you might save their life. So it's okay to ask about these things.
Yep. And I guess it's important to mention that if people have got to that point with their mental illness, they're at the end of their tether. Like, you don't jump straight into that sort of side of it. So those people have been through a lot over the past weeks, months, days, years even, to get to that point. So we need to make sure that they are just saying, I totally agree with you. Just saying you're not going to do anything silly is just a bit of a throwaway comment. When you verbalize it properly, it brings it into reality. Have you actually contemplated this? Which I think in everyone's life, I'm sure people, I can't speak for everybody, but everyone has down moments and everyone has ups and downs. It's pretty normal, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's human to struggle. It's human to have issues. It's human to not have your shit together. And I think this is where we're playing the wrong game at the moment. The game that we're playing is pretending everything's perfect. And
social media plays a problem with that.
Social media, yep, we can blame social media, but we're fucking around like pretending like we've got it all together, and we're happy to help our mates, but we're not going to happy to go and help ourselves. So if we start to play a different game, we get a whole shift in the perspective and a shift in how we can help each other. Because if the game we're playing is pretending to be perfect, the game that we should be playing is something around not having it all together. And you've got your issues, they're unique to you. Bloke down the street, he's got issues, they're unique to him.
Same as the pain scale.
I've got mine, they're unique to me. Now, the fact that our problems are unique to us isn't what brings us together. It's the fact that we've all got problems that bring us together. And we can share those experiences and be fucked up at a point in time and be vulnerable. And that then opens the door for someone else to be vulnerable and know that they're fucked up a little bit or they don't have it together. And that's where we should be playing from. And that's the launching pad, rather than pretending that we're perfect and being like the perfect mate who's always checking in. If you're the perfect mate and wanting to check in plus vulnerability is the ultimate check-in. You say, hey, mate, I've noticed your X or I've noticed your Y. How are you feeling? Because when I went through X, this is how I felt. It's a much better check-in than saying, are you okay?
Yeah. No, for sure. Because this sort of brings me to another point. There's mental health, but then there is, which some of it is, look, there's a lot of different mental health, obviously. There's some that's hereditary. There's some that is trauma-induced. There's some that potentially is substance-induced. There's some that's environmental or situational-induced. There's all different types of it. And I think everybody goes through some sort of depression generally in their lives with ups and downs and post-COVID, and people lost their businesses and houses and all that sort of stuff. But then there's people that could be perceived to be in a comfortable situation, but medically they're not. And that's a different kind of mental illness altogether, isn't it?
Well, mental illness shows no bias.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how much money you've got in your bank account. It doesn't matter how many kids you got.
And people think that, though. What have you got to worry about? You're killing it, you know?
And this goes back to the pain scale, right? You could have all the money, the job, the hobbies, the looks, the partner, the articulation, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I've lost mates around me where they had all that. But those thoughts all of a sudden became too much for them. And those thoughts came into their brain, in their mind, and it snuck around them. Snuck around them. And that made them then sneak around us. And they pretended they were okay. They pretended they had their shit together. But they didn't. So there are many different types of, mental illnesses. And I'm not an expert on how and why.
But you're well versed more than most.
Perhaps well versed more than most, but I don't talk around suicide intervention and prevention. I don't talk about coping strategies for depression and anxiety or addiction disorders. I talk about what are we doing to try and play the game where we are allowed to go and help ourselves. I want to do more work for people where they're empowered to be proud of their relationship with mental health and go, fuck it, I'm going to go do something about it. And what's your first port of call? And go and start speaking to someone, or go and speak to a friend or family member.
The going to speak to somebody is great, and hopefully most people have somebody in their lives that they can talk to. Not everyone does, but most people, hopefully they can. When it comes to speaking to a professional, and I tried to seek this out myself earlier this year, that's harder than it kind of could be. I guess there's potentially a shortage of professionals in the field, but also our health system's pretty good here. But when it comes to the mental health system, it's different to the physical health system.
Yep, different and nuanced, heaps. Can I ask? Yeah, what was your experience when you went to seek a therapist?
Yeah, this is the thing. I live down here on the Mornington Peninsula. There isn't much in the way, so I went and got my mental health thing.
Healthcare plan?
Yep. That's the one. And they're like, okay, so you have to give us give us somewhere that you want to go to so we can get a referral. I got a referral to somebody, a family friend who said this place is good. Mm-hmm. They were not taking on any more patients.
Yep.
So I had to go back to the doctor, get them to amend the mental health plan, which you got to pay for, which is fine. I've got money, but not everybody has money. Mm-hmm. So you have to pay again. They have to refer you to somewhere else. Where do you want to go? Well, it's a bit of a cycle because you've got to make sure that the place will accept you. But for them to accept you, you have to have the mental health plan and the referral to that place.
Okay, so my experience has been a bit different to that, whereas I was able to get the mental health care plan, and you got to pay for it. So I don't know, get like a wart burnt off or something else, and pile in some other health stuff. So you're not just going to the doctor once for one thing. But then I was able to find a psych, and I didn't need a specific GP to psych referral or a psych to GP referral. I was able to take the print out of the mental health care plan and hand that over at the desk at the end of the session. And they were like, yep, cool, no worries. Yep.
So, I think down here there's a scarcity of them, like there is with doctors. I don't think on this peninsula from about Frankston, there's not one bulk billing doctor anymore. So I think, and that shows that there is a lack of healthcare professionals, but also when it comes to the psychologists, then there isn't there as many as well. But that's a situational thing.
Yeah, I think, look, and you might be speaking for not just the peninsula, you might be speaking for a lot of parts of the country,
rural areas, yeah.
So what can we do? We've got to do two things. Keep in mind is don't use the wait list as the barrier, because if you're not on the wait list, you'll never get seen. So my recommendation is to get on the wait list wherever you can. And in the meantime, what are we doing? And if you can't afford a therapist, what are we doing? And the reality is the people around us, friends, family, colleagues, people at the footy club or the netball club, they're going to know us better than a therapist maybe ever will. And if we can go to them with the right prompts for the conversation, framing the conversation in the right way and asking for the support in the right way, then that is going to do a hell of a lot for our mental health in the meantime and a hell of a lot for our mental health ongoing. So we can go and seek the people around us. I've got some tips to do that. We can do that later. Seek the people around us who will hold that space for us and meet those needs for those mental health conversations and those big conversations. Then that's a lot. That is a lot. And there's no barriers to doing that because it's free. We know the people. We just need to find the right people to go and speak to.
And that, I think, is another valid point, that having the community around you, and that's why sport and just having a network of friends is important. I think now, like society, we've got a lot of kids that are sitting in their room playing games. They don't have the social interaction. So when times do get tough, who do you lean on? Your friends that you've been playing games with on the other side of the world. It's really important to get out there and play sport and interact with the community, because those sort of people can be vital to, not only we know the benefits of sport and community anyway, but definitely with mental health, it's got to go a long way.
Yeah, and I wasn't a big gaming guy, so I don't have a lot to do with like the gaming or online community.
Which is a community, I guess, but
yeah. Like, and it is. And if that's all people have, fucking go for it. I was lucky that I had a younger brother and we grew up playing, and that led into playing more sport and playing with mates. But if you've got an online community, and whether they're on the other side of the world and you've never seen them, like, use that. Yeah. Use that as the first stepping stone to go and talking to someone, because they know you, you know them. There's trust and there's rapport, and you can practice these conversations. Like, we're never going to get them perfect. And if we use perfection, again, as a barrier to having these conversations, then we're fucked, because nothing's ever perfect and the conversations will never be. So if you've got the online community or the sporting community or wherever it is, they're the pockets where we can go to start looking for people to go and practice these types of conversations. And if we practice them, we're going to get better at them. For sure.
And to use the scale again, you know, nobody's sitting at a 0. If they are, you've basically cruising through life and not much is stressing you out. So it's quite normal to have a 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I'm at a 2, 3. You know, if we're going to use that scale, that's normal and part of everyday being a human and emotions, isn't it?
100%. If you're at a 0 or a 1, like, enjoy the moments. Like, fucking oath. Like, but just like when we're in the depths of despair or anxiety or depression or a real low point, like, remember, like, this too shall pass. It works with happiness and joy as well. So enjoy the good times. Lean into the bad times and figure out how we're going to get ourselves out of them. But if we're going to pretend that we're at a 1 all the time, are we kidding ourselves? And are we leaning into positive vibes only? Like all that bullshit and the toxic positivity stuff that is not realistic. It's not working. And it's not helpful. So enjoy the good times, but remember, this too shall pass. And definitely remember that when you're going through the tough stuff.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people spend time, and this is unhealthy, but everyone does it, dwelling on things in the past that they can't change. And it's important to remember those things and to learn from them, but to dwell on them and to let that bring you down for potentially where you could go in the future, that's toxic.
Mate, absolutely. And I've got a bit of a history with this, not personally, but people around me trying to drag me back into things that are decades old. And just the energy that takes for the person, like that's a grudge that's being held onto, the energy. Now, for a perspective shift, like, I don't know what works for those people or what will work for people, but it's a reminder here now that we can't change the past and we can't predict the future. So if we're holding on to all of these things from the past that can't be changed, are we wasting our energy?
Yeah.
And if we're trying to predict the future, are we wasting our energy there? So what can we do? We can worry about what's in front of us and what's here and right now.
Yeah. Do you find that with the economic climate at the moment, and obviously it's tough for a lot of people, that plays a factor into mental health as well?
Oh, yeah, I think statistics go up for mental illness and suicide when economy's down. So, yeah. I mean, you can just look into that, and I suppose think about yourselves and the listeners, and myself included. It's like, has it been really rough the last 24 months, maybe even longer, where you just see interest rates go up and up and up, and then last week they don't go down, and it's just tough. Where do you get a break? And I know money doesn't buy happiness, but fuck, it can make a few things easier.
It makes it easier. And that's the thing. I think that is what a lot of people suffer from, is that they feel that they're working hard, they're pushing, and they're not getting the momentum that they would like.
Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I was having dinner with a friend of mine last week. He has some younger guys that work for him, and they have been told, and it's been pushed to them, you'll never buy a house, so don't even try. And that kind of that kind of negative thought process to a young person puts them in a spiral of, I'm just working, I'm never going to buy a house, I'm always going to, and that's negative in itself. I know it's realistic in a sense, but it's negative as well because you can if you put yourself,
I'm sure you can, but shit, I'm glad I'm here now at 36 or 37, not 26 or 27. Like it was, 10 years ago it was hard and it looked hard. And I can't imagine what it would be like for a 27-year-old or 28-year-old now doing it. But even for people that have got a house or don't want to buy a house or whatever situation people are in, where now they're working and they're grinding away. And, 3 years ago, they had a couple of bucks at the end of the month or at the end of the week, and they were going off and doing the holidays or the nice dinner or the clothes or whatever they want to choose to spend their money on. Now, there's no dollars left at the end of the month. And it's, whilst it might not be like paycheck to paycheck, it's like, what are we doing this for? Where's the joy? Where's the happiness? Where's the joy in all of this? Because we work hard. And if you don't work hard, you work a lot of hours. You work 48 weeks out of 52. You work 5 days out of 7 days. And you work 8 hours out of a 24-hour day, 8 of which you might be sleeping, and you've got to find 4 hours either side of that to go and do stuff for yourself. Like, I can imagine it would be very hard for people now with limited money to figure out where the joy is and where the happiness is because they don't have the money to spend.
For sure. And I think that's where the gaming comes into it because they can zone out and be in a different reality, potentially.
Yep.
Yeah. But I think as we move forward as society, we need to, and COVID played, one of the positives it did do was it made people take stock of their time is valuable and to spend more time with family and to do more things that you probably pre-COVID didn't allow yourself time to do.
Yeah, what did I hear? I was out with my mum and her brother, my uncle came by, and we had a bit of a rant about COVID and all the mistakes and the balls up and all this and that. But I heard, what did I hear? I heard them say, it's brought along greater work-life balance. And then what did I hear the other day? Someone at the gym or wherever I was saying, oh, shit, I wish we could go into lockdown again. And just have the time out.
Yeah.
But look, a lot of harm came out of that, especially here in Vic, especially here in Melbourne, I should say, or there in Melbourne, I should say. It wasn't a great time. I think if we had our time again, I would hope we would do that a lot
and we're
differently.
Still feeling the economic pinch from that now, more so than ever.
Yep.
And, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
No, it was extremely stressful for a lot of people, myself included. My business wasn't functioning. A lot of people lost their businesses. A lot of people never came back. And it's, it was a messed up time. But the positives that did come from it is, I guess, that work-life balance, people working from home. But now you're starting to see the pushback coming from the bosses or the powers that be saying you've got to get back into the office. And then people are sort of starting to take stock and be like, do I really want to do that? Do I want to travel into the city 5 times a week?
Yeah, and I think this is another great thing that's happened out of it, is that people no longer want the extra 10 grand or 5 grand or whatever it is. They want...
Can't buy more time.
No, they want the work-life balance, or they want the perks where it's around a gym membership or yoga or meditation classes, whatever it is. The money is meaning less and less. And I wonder if that's part what we've already just spoken about around young people going, we're never going to buy a house. Well, fuck it. You can shove your 10 grand. I want 4 days a week now. Or it's because of COVID where we realign things that are important to us.
Yep.
And is it the 5 grand per year, or is it the 10 grand per year, or is it being able to not drive 10 hours a week up and to and from work and be able to get 3, 4, 5 hours of that back so I can spend it at home gaming with my family, gardening, whatever it is.
Yes. Is there with the workforce? Are employers doing enough for mental health? Is it something that people are taking into consideration now? Because you did say you work with some sort of businesses.
Yep. Some are great. I met with a mob yesterday and I pitched what I do to them. And I'm like, what do you do? And they go, nothing. And I'm like, okay, cool. They've heard me out.
So if someone goes to them, someone goes to them, an employee, and says, hey, I'm having a really bad time mentally, they go, take a few days off. That's it.
Well, potentially. But outside the key date of AOK Day, they do nothing. So they're not proactive in mental health activities or well-being and wellness activities outside of that. They did say that they did AOK Day for the week, and I suppose that's something. But I've gone to other workplaces where they're very proactive, and they will be doing workshops well outside key mental health dates, and every quarter or every month there are wellbeing sessions. There are mental health days off. Businesses have employee assistance programs, which are anonymous therapy sessions. So there are a lot of support that can be done out there. And I think it's also down to what's the culture. And I'm very interested to hear or figure out what the relationship between a manager and a line manager, or the manager and the employee is, how much of that manager has an impact on people's mental health. Are they contacting them outside of hours? How are they speaking to them? That sort of thing. I wonder how much your manager will impact your own mental health.
Yeah. I've never really had a job like that, so it's hard for me to get my head around, but I can imagine that would be stressful, and just having someone that you have to report to daily and being constantly worried about whether or not you're going to get the validation from them, and if your job's on the line and blah, 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 it adds another level of stress to the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I've worked for myself for a couple of years now, by myself, 2 years, and I've had some amazing managers in the past, but I've had some shockers too. And I just remember how much, in fact, it rattled me so much that I ended up having to go back to therapy with anxiety that I'd never had before. And I just remember being at my desk once and having these ruminating thoughts that were just swirling around my head, getting louder and louder and louder, just saying things like, you're hopeless, you're shit at this, you will never be good at this, you'll never be good at the next job, so what the fuck are you doing here? And it just got so loud that I had to leave my desk. I actually went and spoke to my manager and just tried to tackle it head on. Oh. But it was so fucked. And that was because, this particular manager / boss just, it didn't, for whatever reason or reasons, wasn't great for my mental state.
Yeah, and they got to you by the sounds of it.
Big time. And it was over a long time and a few different reasons why I think that happened. But it was shocking. It was, really, really rattled me, that one.
Yeah, and people need to take into consideration certain things that they say, even if they think they're coming across jovially. If you're in a position of power, that can really do a lot to someone's mental state.
Yeah, for sure. I think not that we have to tread on eggshells, but we do have to pick our words carefully. And if we are in a position of power, or leadership or mentorship, even if, fathers, mothers to kids or nieces and nephews, we can't say everything off the cuff and say that we didn't mean it.
No, but if for your situation to get to that point that it literally rattled you, it means that they were doing it repetitively, and that's not the right way to go about trying to get the most out of your team, is it?
No, definitely not. And I ended up, I don't work there anymore, so obviously it didn't work out very well.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about It's Cool to Cry. So obviously you had your individual situation with depression and suicide. Mm-hmm. And so then how is that idea born out of that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it loops back to it dovetails into the end of the story I was telling before about Elle, and how that was something very new to me and shocking to me. And I'd started those therapy sessions, figure out what suicide, mental illness is, and what grief and grieving was. And I'd satisfied this first part of it around the suicide and how Elle got to that level of pain and why she would do something like that and take her own life. But where I dropped the ball was around this grief and grieving side of things. And I was obviously very upset, and I would be crying a lot. I'd be crying in the car. I'd cry in the shower. I'd cry waking up. I'd cry to get myself to sleep.
And you're keeping that to yourself?
No, there were a lot of private cries in those areas, but I wasn't afraid to cry and be sad about Elle, and be sad for myself and be sad for the people that knew Elle. But I remember one day getting ready for work, and Ellie had left a pair of her runners in the bottom of my closet. And that was the day that I decided that I didn't want to be sad anymore. So I just parked it because I'd had enough of feeling sick to my stomach. I'd had enough of the frog in my throat, and I'd had enough of the uncontrollable tears. So that was the day where I just said, no, I'm not going to be sad anymore. I'm just going to bottle it. I'm going to keep it at arm's length, and I'm going to move forward. Mm-hmm. And Ellie wasn't forgotten, but I moved overseas. I had new jobs. I had new partners. And that was that. That was the way I was going. And then a few years later, I started to recognize some patterns in myself that I wasn't particularly happy with. I was a bit of a hothead. I was aggressive. I was very angry, and I was ready to have an argument, never a discussion. And I was always bubbling, ready to fire. And this would then let me do things that would impact people around me, and I could say and do things that wasn't serving the people around me. Harsh, harmful things, never physical, but they were things that would take the sting out of the room really easily and would hurt people.
Right.
And it wasn't helping them. And when my head hit the pillow at night, it wasn't helping me. So what was this person I was becoming? And this was paired with ruminating thoughts about not being able to trust myself because I was bubbling away, always angry, always ready to explode, along with thoughts like, you'll never be able to get through this. You'll never be able to be satisfied. You'll never be able to be calm. You'll never be able to be loved. You'll never love. And then that's when I was like, I've got to go back to therapy here and figure out what's going on. And I was very lucky in that the therapists and I were able to work out that what I'd done when I'd parked sadness and looked at Ellie's runners is that I'd prematurely halted the grieving process. And by doing that, I'd bottled sadness, and it was coming out in unhelpful ways. And for me, it was anger. And I learnt then that emotions aren't good or bad. Emotions aren't positive or negative. It's how we react to them that's important. So sadness was then let back in. Anger was there but acknowledged and regulated, and happiness and joy continued. And my default operating system changed completely, because once upon a time I thought, with what I'd gone through with Ellie and the household that I'd grown up in, which is a very loving household, but it was high octane, high energy, high emotion, high anger, I just thought my default operating system bounced between happy and angry, happy and angry, happy and angry.
There's no medium.
No medium. And once I'd learned about these emotions, and it's okay to be angry sometimes, and it's okay to be sad sometimes, my default operating system changed, and I was floating more, like that. I'm like, this is amazing. I can get through life now. If this is healthy, this is the bouncing ball I want to follow, and this is where I want to go. I'm paying attention to my emotions, and I'm talking about what's going on. That's the bouncing ball I'm following. And then in 2021, I found out that a mate's dad died by suicide. So this takes me back into the shock of where I was with Ellie. But equally as confusing is that we've got Ellie on one hand, who's young, female. She's just about to start her career. On the other hand, we've got Matt, who's male, older. He's just retired. On paper, they're completely different people.
Yep.
How are they dying from the same thing, and what's happening to everyone in between? What's happening to everyone on the outside? So that's when I put my thinking cap on and said, what can I do to try and prevent these stories like Matt's, try and prevent the stories like Ellie's? And knowing what I know about leaning into emotions and talking about my mental health to live a happier, healthy life. And that's when I had a lot of ideas, and this was the one that stuck. And this was back a few years ago. It was just a T-shirt, and it had a logo on it, and it was called It's Cool to Cry. And the idea was that it would provoke conversations down the street, at the cafe, at the movies, at the dinner table, and get conversations happening where it wouldn't usually have happened, and give people the right to be proud of their relationship with mental health. And like, you know, when you put your Nike or your Puma or your Adidas on and you go to the gym and you're prepared or preparing for a physical health challenge, I want people to wear It's Cool to Cry and be prepared or preparing for a mental health challenge, and give people that right. Give people that right and put it out there in the open and get conversations happening.
So the idea is born, but then you got to put it into place. Which is a different challenge.
Yeah. And like for a while it was, just getting hours after work or hours on the weekend and figuring out how to build a Shopify website, find a graphic designer, look up how to buy domain pages. Like I didn't no experience, had nothing, but I just wanted to do something, and it was a love job, a side hustle, a passion project for a year, selling t-shirts to people, friends, families, anyone who liked an Instagram post, looked at me sideways on the street, I'd go and ask them to buy a shirt. And then 2 years ago I got made redundant. So at that point I'm like, I'm just going to push the chips in here. And from a t-shirt brand, it's become now a whole range of merch that people can wear, whether you're a proud mental health advocate or you're advocating for yourself or someone else. There's a range of merch that can be worn. There's workshops where I go and deliver them to corporates and sporting clubs, and then run fundraising events to try and raise money for charity, and then help a lot of people along the way through workshops of their own, and get people confident that what they're going through is normal. Yeah. And you're allowed to speak about it.
And you're all in now.
I'm all in. It's a full-time gig, just not paying any full-time money yet. So we just keep plugging away.
You've got to keep going, man. That's it. So then this is the hardest thing with charities or social enterprises or whatever, is that the intention to do good is there, but the barrier to entry is hard because they make it difficult for you, don't they? Like, not make it difficult, but you can have the concept, you can have the idea to help people, but that's the easy part. The hard part is the execution.
I would suspect that starting any business is really hard. Any business is really hard. And like I'm a business, I'm a social enterprise, and I give 5% of sales to mental health charities. Now that's not the selling point that I thought it once was. And having a logo on a shirt, I thought these shirts are going to save the fucking world. It's not quite as simple as that, and I suppose if it was simple, everyone would be doing it. But the advantage that I have, I think, is that people want to help. People want mental health to become normal. So I'm very, very, very lucky that when I go and speak to people, whether it's the business yesterday, people like you today, is that they want to hear about it because they either want to help themselves so they can help other people, or they want to help themselves. So I think I'm very lucky in that regard. But yeah, it's hard yakka making things work. I think in the not-for-profit space or a charity space, equally as hard is that people don't want to give you money because they're not getting anything back. Whereas if you're in a B2B business, you're probably helping people save money or save time, reduce effort and sacrifice, or you're helping them make money because they're going to invest. So it is a bit of a slog, this pocket.
Yeah, but I guess you've got to look at the bigger picture, and even if the dollars aren't rolling in, people are wearing the merch, or even if they're just watching this podcast and they see it, they're talking. So you're spreading the word without necessarily seeing the return, but hopefully it's happening. The return is happening because people are talking.
Yeah, and that's right. Like it's Cool to Cry is on purpose. Like that's by design. It's supposed to be a slogan that gets people talking, but it's also about giving people permission to cry if they need to. And, there's a couple of thousand bits of merch out there at the moment. So they're pretty much walking billboards there. All the customers, the Cool Criers, are walking billboards and walking advocates to go and say that you can talk about what's going on. So, yes. And will that come back? I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
Well, in this day and age where, there's a lot of everything out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to make your mark. It really is.
Yeah.
Like people say such and such. It's a flooded market. Everything's a flooded market.
Yeah, and like merch is tough. Like, how many people are selling t-shirts, and how many great companies are selling great t-shirts? Like, you've got to keep up with that. So, I'm not saying that merch is or isn't the answer. Or any other of those flooded niches are harder or easier. But yeah, this is the battle I picked. Yep. And I think where I got to with the workshops and the fundraisers, that they had to become important parts of the business because they actually bring in revenue, which helps me pay electricity bills and fucking eat. So while once upon a time I thought that the T-shirts were going to be a standalone business, they couldn't. It wasn't sustainable, or it wasn't economical to try and rely on that. As a guy who runs it out of his garage, it's just not going to work quick enough. So that's when the workshops luckily came into play, and they become an important part of the business to go and A, help people, but B, help me pay bills and keep it going.
For sure. Can you break down the fundraisers and what fundraisers that you've done in the past?
Yeah, so we had a ripping fundraiser. It was the first one I've done. It was called Solid Mates. That was on the back of Men's Health Week last month, and we had Matty Richardson, Harry Garside, Rob Mills come in and be part of a panel guest Q&A speaking spot at the start of the night.
Are they all individuals that have had their own battles with mental illness or inadvertently, indirectly had people affected?
So they all spoke very well on the night about their own struggles, and it was amazing to hear how well they speak and articulate it. And you can just tell they've thought about it a lot. And you can tell they've spoken about it a lot because you know the people that have done the work. So the idea with having those three in the room was that if they can model what it's like to talk about typically hard things, then that might give permission for someone else to do it. Oh, shit, if Harry can do it, or maybe I can do it. Or if Richo says that, or maybe I can say that. And give the 250 guys that we had in the room permission to go, okay, it's okay not to have your shit together. And then once we moved through that, we went into more of a workshop style of the event where people had to go to work, turn to the guy next to you and do this activity. Now go find someone else and do this activity. And I was very lucky that I paired this up with a preventative men's mental health organisation called Tomorrow Man, and they go out to schools and sporting clubs and the communities to talk to boys and men about what it's like to be a modern man in 2025. And they co-facilitated it with me. So they had a raft of facilitation exercises that we ran through and put guys through almost like a workout. Whereas if you felt your stomach clench or you felt your heart racing, that's what we call a rep. That's a rep. This is how we practice. You practice at the gym by doing reps. This is how we're practicing here. These are mini workouts sort of thing. Or these are workouts on how to do it here. So then you can go out and do it out in the open. So we ran guys through an hour and a half workshop, raised 70 odd grand to donate and share around Tomorrow Man and It's Cool to Cry, and helped 250 people on the night, and the feedback from that has been amazing.
Awesome. So that's the first. Is there more to come?
That was the first. It almost broke me, but I'd love to do more because people's told me that you're going to be finding it really hard to sell tickets to this, and the tickets were $50 and 7 cents, and the reason it was 7 cents is because 9 Aussies a day die by suicide. For context, that's double the road toll. And 9 out of the people die by suicide every day. 7 of them are men. So that's why tickets were $50 and 7 cents, to get really pointy on that.
So it really is suicide is a predominantly in Australia a male issue more so than female.
Yep. Yeah.
Just statistically, we're talking.
Statistically, and there'll be reasons why, but. Okay, just circling back to what I was saying about the fundraisers and will they be happening again? People were willing to pay $50 and 7 cents to come to that. And whether they came because there was pizza and drinks included or non-alcoholic drinks, pizza and non-alcoholic drinks included, or because Richo and Harry and Millsy were speaking, or because they were coming to support me, or they were coming to support Tomorrow Man, or they were coming to support a friend, it doesn't matter that they got into the room. What matters is that it's given people a chance to spend money on their own mental health. People will spend money on their physical health. Some people won't. But give people a chance to go and help themselves and spend money on their physical health, and they'll do it. And I'm not saying this is like a money-making scheme or anything like that, but have people been given a chance to go and spend money on their mental health in a really low-barrier, low-cost way? Like we talk about therapy before. That's a high-cost exercise to go and do. But for $50, this could be a really great way for people to go, all right, this is my first step into looking after my own mental health.
Yeah, or even understanding it more, you know? Like people might have been like, look, So my dad, just to use as context, he's in his early 60s. He's never really suffered depression, and he kind of doesn't get it. And when I tell him I'm having a bad time, or even his partner, she's depressed, he's like, yeah, she's depressed. He's like, I've never been depressed. I don't really get it. He doesn't get it. That part of his brain just doesn't. But for him, someone like him to go, maybe they'd understand it a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's even a reason to do it. I'm going to send him next time.
Mate, get him to come along. Get him to come along. And it is like...
But some people just miss... And I guess it's an older generational thing. They just get on with stuff, you know? And whether or not they're depressed, maybe they're good at pretending they're not. But he just says, I don't really get it. I don't get depressed. I just get on with things. It's a generation.
I think so too. And I had a great call with a guy yesterday, and we're organising a workshop for the dads group at their primary school. And he's like, mate, I'm having trouble getting people on board here. I've only got 10. We're trying to sell 50 tickets. I'm like, all right, well, what about this? He's like, if they're not going to come for themselves, why don't they come for their kids?
That's a great angle.
Because just because our grandparents treated our parents like that and our parents treated us like that doesn't mean we have to treat our kids like that.
Break the cycle.
It's break the cycle, the intergenerational trauma. And he's like, bing. So that nailed it. And our parents and our grandparents only knew what they knew. They were both generations, grandparents, great-grandparents, went through wars. Like we went through COVID. I know that was tough, but like we're talking about battle for 3-4 years on end. Like I can't imagine what that would be, and the impact if you survived that would have on you. And then also for the people particularly the women, majority of the women that stayed home as well, like what impact did that have on them? And of course, that's going to get passed down to generations. What's that sign? Keep calm, carry on. Like that's probably toxic in itself. Like at the time, really served really well, but holding that thought and holding that belief probably hasn't helped grandkids and kids along the way.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I guess you can only deal with the sort of situations you have at the time. And I guess during those periods, they've just got to try and make the best they can. It has been inadvertently carried on to our generation, I guess, where older generations go, what have you got to worry about? Everything's fine. You know what I mean? Because they're just talking from where they've come from.
Yeah. And it'll be funny. I'm not a parent, but I wonder in 5, 10, 15 years' time if I ever have to bite my tongue and saying, oh, it was different back in my day.
Yeah, and another thing is with like you said, you're not a parent, but as someone, I only have one kid, but as a parent, when I had that kid, and I know a lot of other males have gone through a similar scenario, because women have we talk about it, postnatal depression is a real thing, but with guys, and I had it, and I know my friends that have had it, after you have your first kid, you're kind of like shocked and like you feel that it's hard to explain. You feel that, am I really equipped to look after this person? And people spin out. And I can totally see how past generations, dads have just taken off and freaked out, because they would freak out, because you're like, wow, I'm mega depressed because I've got this now human that I've got to look after, and I don't feel that I'm equipped to do that. And I think that's something that happens with a lot of first-time dads that we probably don't talk about enough.
Yeah, well, I'm probably the least qualified to be speaking about this, having not been a father. But yeah, I
don't know if it's an actual condition, but I know I've had people that have reached out to me like, man, I don't know, like, because I think it's just an overwhelming sense of, I've been responsible for myself for so long. Now I've got to be responsible for this person. And it's almost like the fight or flight thing. Like, am I able to do this, or am I better off to take off because I'm not equipped, you know?
Yeah. And the coping, I suppose maybe a common one that you hear of is that men get to a certain age in their career and they go, what have I got? Because they've ran away from the responsibilities of being a father, and they've undertaken a career, and whether they were hiding from home life or just didn't know how to be a dad at home, they went all in at work. And you hear some stories about, I don't know my kids, or I don't know, have a relationship, which not a part where I could probably speak too much more on, but I've just heard.
No, well, like you think of that classic song, "The Cat's in the Cradle," right? Like that's all about that. To spend your whole life working and you don't value your kids, and then by the time your kids are you realise that it's too late, and then you've already instilled those values into your kids that are ignoring their kids. We've got to break the cycle.
Break the cycle, exactly. And that's actually like a power that we've got. Like, we don't have to do what our dads did or our mums did because that's what they did, because they learned it off their mum, which are their dad or mum, which is our granddad or grandma. Like, why the fuck would we do what our grandparents were doing? So we've got the ability to change it, and if we're going to let things fly, then that's actually bad on us. Like, we talk about suicide rates in Australia, whether it's male or female. Like, we've got a chance to change this. Like, why aren't we? It's the biggest killer of Aussies, 15 to 44, and we're sitting idle. Like,
15 to 44, it's the biggest killers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And then it will come down a bit. I think heart disease increases, becomes the biggest killer after 44. But then your rate or your risk of dying from suicide goes up again once you retire. So it's not just a young person's thing. It's not just a middle-aged person's thing. It can affect anyone and everyone. So we talk about intergenerational trauma in these stats. Like, we are able to help our next generation, but we've got to help ourselves first and get a bit better at talking about what's going on.
With the gender thing, is there studies being done is it known that it's more prevalent in males because they talk less about it? Is that actually confirmed, or is that just what we are reading between the lines?
What do I know here? I know that the anxiety and depression rates are higher for women, but that might be because it's underreported in men. So we just leave that one there. The rate of suicide affects men more. This could be because the method chosen by men are typically more fatal.
More aggressive responses to fix the situation.
Correct. So, fix the situation, escape the pain, whatever it is. So, I'm not here to talk about those methods. Definitely not. Could we also argue that men aren't good at talking about what's going on in their heads, and if we don't, it will soon overwhelm us, and that overwhelm can lead to suicidal ideation, thoughts, and suicide? Yes, you could argue all of those 3 points. It's all complicated, but it can all be made better by putting more of it out in the open.
In the last decade-ish, as a society, we've come a long way for people to talk more and for guys to talk, which was something that was deemed to be a feminine-ish trait in the past. Guys are like, don't talk about your emotions, you get on with it, blah, blah, blah. Since then, there seems to have been this kind of pushback where there's like guys like, we need to reclaim our masculinity and all that sort of stuff. Do you find that that's somewhat toxic in moving forward, or is that important as well?
Oh,
you see that sort of stuff?
Yeah, but like, all right, well, what is masculinity? Like, you see blokes crying on the telly and people say, that's courageous, that's brave. But then you see, it's confusing. And then you see, what I heard a mate recently, he lost someone, and I said, he was at a funeral, and I asked a few of his mates how he was handling it, and they go, oh, he held himself together, he was really strong. I'm like, it's confusing now because you've just said someone on telly is crying is strong, but then someone who's held it together at a funeral is strong. Like, well, what's strong? Is it crying or not crying? So we've got to get better at defining what is strong.
Yep.
And holding in emotions, I personally please don't think it is, because it's harmful to ourselves, and it sets such a great example if we are able to let our emotions out in a safe way. And because we don't know else, who knows, needs to see that as an example, because we haven't had the examples over the years. Like, I don't know how many times you've seen your old man or your grandpa cry, or an uncle or a father figure. You don't see it that often. And we haven't been taught you can't be what you can't see. So the masculinity debate is a really tricky one, but we're sort of singing from two different pages of the hymn book here when we're saying something's strong when you don't cry, but you're strong when you do cry.
Right, yeah. It's very interesting. My son the other day, this is like 3 days ago, who's 6, he said to me, Dad, I've only ever seen you cry at funerals. You don't cry normally. And I made a point to say, well, that's true. You might have only seen me, but people do cry in other situations. I made a point to let him know that it is okay to do that. He's 6. He's still at the point where he'll cry when he drops his icy pole. You know what I mean? So, like, crying is a normal part of his life for him, you know. But I want him to understand that men do cry, and that does happen. But the only time he would have seen that is at a funeral. Also, on the funeral subject, as somebody I'm only 42, but I've been to way too many funerals for my liking for someone my age with people that are close to me. But when people say they held it together and they were very strong, I think that comes from, if you're at a funeral and you're talking, which I've spoken at a few, or if you're at a funeral and you're sitting in that front row because family has died, if you are a withering mess, the flow and effect to everybody else, you're sort of holding it together for your auntie, for your uncle, for your nan, for whoever, because when they see you in trouble, I shouldn't say in trouble, when they see you breaking down and not being able to control it, that has the flow and effect. And I think negative or positive that's probably what people are saying from a funeral perspective of them holding it together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair on that person. Like, why should they go without properly grieving? Why should they go without doing it?
And I'm sure they are, but that's probably not the time that they are letting it out if they are staying strong. They're having a cry probably the day before, the day after, the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and look, if that's what they're doing, great, good on them if that helps them, but as long as they're having their moment when they need it. And it's probably important now to point out, you can't fake a laugh, you can't fake a cry. And that's okay. That's totally fine. But to withgo that, to hold space for other people or to be strong for other people, I'd need some more convincing to come around to that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's hard, I guess it's hard to put into words, but like I've spoken at my mum's funeral, I've spoken at my auntie's funeral, I've spoken at a lot of funerals, and I become more vulnerable and tend to cry at people's funerals where I'm not talking, that I'm removed from, more so myself. When my mum died, of course I cried, but not when I'm standing there talking to 500 people in a church.
Yeah.
So you pick and choose your times, and when people say you've done a good job to hold it together, they're just meaning for that moment, not in general. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's probably a good way to look at it. Yeah.
It's I was just trying to play devil's advocate when you said that.
I like it. I like it.
I have been through that sort of stuff, but I could go to someone's dad's funeral that I've only met a couple of times, and I'll probably shed a tear. But I've been to people's and spoken to people that I'm a lot closer to, but I'm, quote, holding it together.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's different levels to it.
For sure. Yeah, it's not binary, like cry or not cry. Like, it's almost like, what do you find funny? Like, what sort of humor have you got? Like, it's nuanced like happiness, and laughing is like, it's not just cry yes or no.
Yeah. But it is okay to cry.
It's cool to cry. Jeez.
No, that is what we want to get across, and we want kids to know that it is. My kid, he thinks it's cool to cry because he cries all the time. He cried because he didn't want to go to school yesterday, but I think we need to,
Long live school holidays, right?
Yeah, man, the school holidays, that was full on. But you've got some stuff over there, man. Tell us about what you got here.
Yeah, so I brought in some merch just to say thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
I'm going to open up this packet here and show you the design. This is an important design because it was done by a guy. Can we see that? Where am I going?
Oh, yeah. So that's embroidered on.
That's embroidered. That's some bougie embroidery. That's
awesome.
The Chocky on white wavy top.
Yep.
That's for you. And
thanks, man.
I want to actually, with every order, comes this thing. It's called the Feels Wheel.
Yep. So that's a camera there.
That's important. This is important because this is a tool that helps you have better and more meaningful conversations around your mental health.
Can I have a look?
For sure. It helps you properly identify and articulate how you're feeling.
Yep.
So there's a goat in this world called Brene Brown. She'll tell us that worldwide we only know 3 emotions: happy, sad, or angry, which is fine. We need those. They're all needed, and we are those, but we are more than just happy, sad, or angry. So that feels wheel has 130 something emotions on it, and it helps you get more granular with what's going on.
Wow.
Is there one on? Can I do a bit with you?
Yeah.
Is there one on there that particularly stands out for you at the moment? And is it a new word, or sorry, one that you haven't used recently or used to describe what you're going through, because you've now got essentially an emotions cheat sheet?
Man, there's so many on there.
Yeah.
Accepted is probably a good one. Like,
Cool.
And that has negative and positive sort of connotations to it. You can accept where you are mentally, but you can also feel accepted as in with people around you.
Yep.
Is that supposed to have a double meaning? Have I read into it too much?
No, this is great, and I think it's important to realise that with emotions, there's no right or wrong.
Yep.
And with emotions, you're allowed to feel numerous things over the same circumstance, and just like you've shown, that emotion or that feeling can mean a few things for you. So it's about, I mentioned earlier before, it's about practice.
Yep.
And playing around with it, not being harsh, and just being curious about it all, and like being curious, like right then, has probably given you a great sounding or great launching pad to go and have a conversation by saying, I feel accepted because of A and B. And
this is, you haven't come up with this. This is a thing.
No, I have not pulled that out of my ass.
Because I haven't seen this. I haven't seen it before.
This is, that's an evidence-based feels wheel. There's been lots of iterations of it. I just like that one. That one's done by a doctor called Gloria Wilcox. And this whole process is called affect labeling, and that is, again, an evidence-based process. And if we can do this properly by getting granular and accurate with labeling our emotions, it's going to have a few pronged effect on it. Firstly, it's going to calm our brain. There's another guy in this world called Dan Siegel. He's coined the term called name it to tame it. So if you can figure out what you're feeling, it's going to tame that in your brain, and you're going to have a physiological response. You'll calm down. You won't have sweaty hands. Your heart rate will decrease. You'll make better decisions. And then where I come from is that if you can label the emotion properly, you've got then a great start to having a really great conversation about what's going on in your mind. So
for sure.
Definitely not pulled out of my ass. It's all evidence-based backed, affect labeling, name it to tame it, and the emotions wheel. Yeah,
I love the fact that when I look at the red section here, just in the secondary circle, you've got a lot of things that are what would be perceived to be negative emotions, but then it kind of breaks them down. So you've got, aggressive, mad, bitter, humiliated, then let down. So you might be feeling negative, you might be feeling bad, you might be having a bad day, but is it because you've done something wrong, or are you feeling let down? So that's really interesting.
Yeah, okay, so here's an example. So in the workshops, I ask people at the start of the session to think of a scenario, good, bad, or ugly, that they're feeling right now, it's been rattling around in their head, and assign an emotion to it. And then we go through the workshop, and towards the end, I bring out this feels wheel, and I say, right, remember that scenario, good, bad, or ugly. What was the emotion? Now I'll give you the feels wheel. What's the new emotion or emotions now that you've got a better vocabulary around it? And a lady put her hand up in one of my first workshops. She goes, I thought I was angry. I thought I was angry at my partner for not picking up the kids last night. But now I know it's not anger. It's not just anger. It's humiliation. It's frustration. And it's about being let down. It's humiliation because our kids were the last kids from after school getting picked up. They were late getting picked up from after school care. It's being let down because this isn't the first time this has happened, and it's frustration because that was the plan. So not to heave it on the guy that didn't pick up the kids, but like that's such a better starting place for a great conversation than it is I'm angry at you. So I'm actually humiliated and let down and frustrated. Okay, why? And we dig into that, and that person gets to tell exactly what she's feeling and why. And that other person, yeah, he's still buggered up, but he's got the understanding of why now. Rather than just I'm angry at you, we've got all these other things underneath it saying, right, cool.
This should be on everyone's fridge. I feel like, no, it should be.
Well, you can download it for free. It's cooltocry.com. Go and download it for free because it's so handy. It's so handy, and it reduces the barrier to go and figure out. We don't know what we're feeling if we don't know the word for it. So it's about barrier reduction. Let's find out what we're feeling, and then it makes the conversations easier to go and have.
For sure. And you could find the emotion that you think you're feeling, like you said, angry, but then go, well, hang on, why am I angry? And you can kind of move a few degrees from that and probably find a more specific word that sums up how you're feeling.
Exactly. And I've had a few people come up to me after workshops and going, you've just nailed that with that wheel. And like, I'm not taking credit for the wheel. I just put tools in front of people.
Yeah, I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm learning something.
Yeah.
Well, it's good because it's very easy to say, I'm pissed off, I'm this, I'm feeling depressed, and then from the male fixing aspect, like with my family, why are you depressed? How do we fix it? Let's fix it, right? But let's figure out what the cause is. What is the real emotion? Are you feeling anxious because of this? Are you feeling nervous? Anxiety and nervousness is different. You know what I mean? So there's a lot. How many different words are on there? A lot.
Yeah, 130 odd. Yeah.
130 odd. So there's a lot of different ways to, once you can articulate it, then you can kind of move forward with trying to help the situation, not fix it.
Yes, this is great. So it's help the situation, not fix it. So let's it's okay not to have the answers for yourself to go and fix it. But what we're doing here is we're getting out of where we are and we're moving through to where we want to be. And it doesn't mean fixing straight away. So it might just mean talking about it so that these feelings and emotions at the time, give them a chance to evolve or evaporate. Because after time, that's what they should be doing. You mentioned grudges before. Like if we held on to grudges, we're going to be exhausted doing that. So if we can help ourselves by getting these conversations happening early, we let them out in the open, get them out of the open so they can evolve or they can evaporate.
For sure. I had someone reach out to me 6 months ago for a business that owed a whole bunch of people money.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're starting a class action. Apparently they owe you a bunch of money. Can you sign on? And I said, I'm letting it go. Like, I'm not going to spend my time trying to chase these people for money that we're not, like, that negativity and holding on to it, let it go. They won, whatever. You know what I mean? Holding on to the grudges like that, it just breeds more negativity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big believer on, like, where do we want to spend our energy? Do we want to go back? Do we want to go back and put it into time where we're trying to dig up a grudge? Or do we want to go and be proactive on things that we can do in our everyday life or in our future? So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
With you on that one. I'm not saying that's a blanket rule or easy to do, but yeah, just more often than not, it's easy to forgive and forget or just chalk it up as a lesson learned.
For people that are watching this, and they've been watching it for an hour and a half now, so they're in for the long haul, what would you say that they should do if they feel like somebody around them is at what they perceive to be a 7, 8, 9 on the scale?
Do you mind if I just speak about this?
Yeah,
Top?
for sure.
And this is not for me. This is to pay respect to someone. So during this journey, a guy reached out to me. He said, I have a lot of people reach out to me, hey, can I help? I'm like, yeah, cool, of course you can help. What do you want to do? And then you never hear from them again. This guy, he's like, I want to design some clothes for you. I want to design some logos for you. And I'm like, yeah, mate, go for it. Show us what you've got. And his name was Joel Pringle, and
I know him. He's a designer.
He's a designer. And if you've been on Instagram, you've probably seen his stuff because I'll just turn around. I can show you my hoodie. He designs this sort of style of stuff.
Yep. I've actually used him before for something. Yeah.
So the mascot style logos. And I'm like, yeah, mate, cool, go for it. So he just went off and came back with a whole sheet of logos. And I said, thanks, mate. He said, this one's for love. I really love what you're doing. And we ended up becoming closer beyond transactional work relationship. And he was telling me about a few hard things that he was going through. And we ended up speaking quite a bit over a couple of months. And Joel was going through a lot, so much so that Joel ended up dying by suicide himself.
I didn't know.
And this T-shirt here,
wow,
this is one of his designs.
That happened recent. How long ago was that?
This was in late last year, around September last year,
August, September
last year. No, neither did I. I think I had a post using one of his designs, and someone underneath it said RIP Joel. And as soon as I got that, I rang him and it went to no one. And then I messaged him on Instagram, and his wife wrote back. And
because he had a couple of kids as well. Yeah.
And this is what I said before, going back to kids, a business, a car, family. You just don't know. And you just don't know what's going on.
His life looked amazing from an outlook perspective.
And I spoke to him for hours on the phone, like ripping bloke, helpful guy, great listener, and all of these things, sometimes they don't matter because mental illness, shows no bias. And unfortunately, Joel had a few things going on that he couldn't live with, and he ended up dying by suicide. So these hoodies, these tops in particular, they're a bit more special now because Joel designed them and he believed in what I was trying to do. So I love to have his designs on hoodies, and I love having his designs on shirts because he would want this to be helping as many people as possible.
For sure. I had no idea, man.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of work for a lot of different people that I know, their businesses. And the one down the road where I get this coffee from, he's done their T-shirts. He's done a lot of them, man.
Mate, walk down the street and you could point and shoot in some shopping strips, like cafes, sandwich shops, golf clubs. Fuck it. There's his mascots everywhere, which is awesome because they are amazing, fun bits of art, bits of graphic design, and I'm just so lucky that, out of all the people that reached out that wanted to help, he was one of them, and he was one of them that said, no, I'm actually going to help. And he did that, and he did that for love, and now his stuff gets to live on with a fair bit of importance behind it.
Yeah, man, I reached out to him to do some work for me, and then COVID happened, and I said to him, hey, man, look, COVID's a bit shit at the moment, money's not coming in, and he halved what it was going to cost me gave me the designs to use. So that speaks about how he actually did care. And, fuck, man, I had no idea. There you go.
Yeah, and you can still use his work. His wife has taken over the account or the page, and it's called Legacy Brands now. Legacy Brands, I'm pretty sure. So it's all still got that Joel's flavour and style, which I think is a great tribute to him and what Eve's doing for the brand and for them as a family.
And that just shows the importance of asking people that seem to be okay if they are, because a lot of the time people are putting it out there that everything's fine.
Exactly, mate. And that's go back to your point before, just before I went back to the T-shirt. It's like, what's your advice to people that might be speaking to someone that is at a 6, 7, 8, 9? Right, so we've got to ask the question if they're all right. Then we would like to take on a default mode of care and curiosity, not pity and judgment. Pity and judgment looks like this. I'm so worried about you. So if I'm worried about you, you're a burden. People don't talk because they're afraid of being a burden, right? So stamp that one out. Being worried for someone will not fix them, won't help you, won't help them. So don't say it out loud, even if you are, because it will put the burden back on them. So that's default mode is pity and judgment. So judgment we'll come back to, but the default mode that we want to use is care and curiosity. So care looks like, I love you, I care about you, tell me what's going on, rather than I'm worried about you. So that holds space for someone saying that they're needed and they're loved. So care, that's what care looks like. Curiosity looks like, tell me more about what's going on. What is making you feel like this? And tease out, whereas judgment's like, you shouldn't be feeling like this. You've got X, you've got Y, you've got Z. Don't get that confused with gratitude. We're talking about curiosity and care. So this is the baseline for all of our conversations. You know the person better than me, so you can come up with the questions. And now, if we're stuck again It's I care about you, I love you, how can I support you? You can always go back to that as your sounding board, or always go back to that one as your anchor, I suppose. And let the person tell you what they need. When we're talking to people about what they're going through, use I statements. I have noticed this. I have noticed this. Not,
so you're not blaming them.
Bingo. Not you are doing this or you are doing that. And
your mood is, like that. Yeah.
I have noticed your mood. That's fine. Right. We can do that. Or I have noticed this, where you are usually that. Or I have noticed this. That must be tough. I would be feeling like that. So get ourselves ready to also squirm. I love the squirm because the squirm is real. The squirm is hard because this is going to be difficult. They're not going to be, no, I'm going to stop that. We've got to stop calling these difficult conversations because if something's difficult, we're not going to do them. These are worthwhile conversations that might go through difficult patches, but they're going to go through very hopeful and very good patches too. And the idea is that we have these conversations so that we come out the other side better than it. So these are worthwhile conversations with difficult parts and great parts. So they're not difficult conversations. So when we have this, we're going to experience the squirm. And the squirm is going to go from both people because there's going to be times where you're going to want to ask really difficult questions and you're going to hear really difficult things and you're going to have to sit through silences. And you have to hold the space and not move the conversation on so you can get off the couch or get off the phone. You got to hold space and wait for them to be ready to stop. So if we're ready for them to, if it seems like the person stops speaking, then we've only got two ways we can go here. It's like, do you want to keep speaking? And they say yes or no. And if it's a yes, then we let them keep speaking. And we can ask the same question once they've done that. Do you want to keep speaking? Or would you like to keep speaking? Yes or no? And if it's a no, and they're done speaking, I say, cool. All right, well, thanks for sharing. However you want to wrap this up through an empathetic way. So thanks for sharing that with me. That sounds like this. How can I best support you? And you let them tell you what they need. Because they might need just the chat. Or they might need a check-in in a week. They might need someone to help them book an appointment at the GP. They might not someone to find a therapist. They might need a weekly walk and talk. Whatever that is, that's now back on you to try and get them through that. I said this earlier, don't guess, don't solve, don't fix. Unless you go, how can I best support you? They say, I need your help with this. Then you can go into solve mode or fix it mode. But until then, don't do that because you won't be trusted next time. And if you're not trusted next time, they might not trust anyone else. And then it builds another barrier for them going to help themselves by going to speak to someone.
Uh-huh. And that's extremely relevant information. And I reached out, I can talk about it from a personal perspective. I reached out to people when I was going through a really tough time earlier this year. And there's some people, if I was in that situation again, I would reach out to, and there's others that I probably wouldn't, which I've learned.
You've learned. And, okay, can I ask you more questions about that? Is that cool?
Yeah.
Can you give me some reasons or give me some things that the people did that you wouldn't go back to again? What were some things that they did or said or didn't do that you now don't trust them to go back for those conversations?
They were trying to fix it. What's wrong? Right. Your mortgage has gone up $2,000 in the last 12 months. Yeah, well, you got to get it. You've got to refinance. No shit, I know that. You know what I mean? But that's not the only problem. That's one of the problems. They're just like, look, without throwing anyone under the bus, it was tokenistic. We're coming to see you. We're a bit worried about you because we've been told that you're in the doldrums. Mm-hmm. It wasn't productive. Other people, where they were productive, they did the same thing, but they cared. They asked the right questions, and maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe they just understand it more. Maybe they've been through it themselves. But yeah, there was people that I feel like tried to fix it and just thought, yeah, you'll be right. And then other people that really cared.
Yeah, great. And I think it's awesome to hear that next time the people that you can go to. because that time will come again, probably hopefully for a different reason, or hopefully it doesn't come again, but it's probably going to be for a different reason. Then you've got that pocket of people that you just know that you can trust. And I think that's really important, and well done for, identifying those people as well.
Yeah. And I'm lucky personally because I've got not a very big family, but I've got a large network of friends that I've met over the years and a lot of people that I could reach out to because I'm a social person. I've got a lot of friends, but not everybody has that luxury, which is the tough thing. So there's people that I guess, that don't have that network, and it makes it a lot harder for them individually,
Yep, definitely. And maybe this is a good time for me to try and help people figure out who those people are. Because I go on and on about help-seeking behaviour via ways of conversations and empowering people to go and have the conversation. You've got the feels wheel. You've got ways to identify who to speak to, when should we be speaking about it, how to start the conversation. So I think a really important thing for people to do is identify who are the people. Who are the people that you want to go and speak to? And do this exercise now in your heads or on a bit of paper. It's like, who are the 3 people right now that you could go to and pick up the phone or have the coffee with and say that I need you to listen to me. I need some emotional support here. I'm going through some stuff. My head's a bit fucked. Whatever that is. Who are those 3 people? Now get ready for those 3 people to change, to rotate, to grow to 3, 4, 5 people, whatever that is. Because the reality is all those 3 people might not be ready for these conversations.
And they've got their own shit going on.
They've got their own shit going on, or they might not be able to meet your needs, and because they might hijack the conversation, they might be busy, they might try and fix, whatever that is. And you'll only know this by going and doing it. That's why I say 3 people, not 1. I'm going to go 4, whatever it is, but 3 people. These conversations are around meeting our needs. And you mentioned before, people that tried to fix you in your situation weren't meeting your needs. The people that were asking the right questions and caring were meeting your needs. So how can I make this simple? I've got one of my best mates. We speak about everything. Jay, I love him to bits. He and I have spoken about and speak about everything. When we were dating, we go to the gym together, we speak about spiritual stuff, finances, work, family, relationships, whatever that is. We speak about everything, mental health, mental illness, suicide, the works. But we don't speak about AFL footy because Jay knows nothing about AFL football. He still thinks James Hird plays for Essendon. So why would I go to Jay to talk to him about AFL footy? He's not going to meet my needs. Uh-huh. So it's the same with our mental health. And the same with our mental health conversations. Find the people that are going to meet your needs. Don't force it down their throat because you're not going to get anything and they're not going to get anything. These people might not be in your family. These people might not be in your instant friendship circle.
They may not be your partner. A lot of people can't rely on their partner, I feel like.
They might not be your partner, and that's fine too. This is about finding out where your needs are going to be met. They might be in your online gaming community. They might be at the footy club, at the netball club. But go and challenge yourself to find the 3 people and get ready for some of those people. They might not be ready for you, and that's okay. Yep. But keep hunting, keep knocking doors down and keep finding those people.
I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but this is just what I think is the right thing to say.
Yep.
If you find somebody who you know potentially has gone through hard times with depression as well, I think they're probably more likely to understand where you're coming from and probably more likely to help as well, rather than somebody who you know seems to be just cruising and doesn't have the ups and downs.
Yes, this is great because they're the ones, for the use of the better word, they've got the ones with the runs on the board or the experience.
Yep.
So, hey, Maloney, I know that you went through some rough times in the past. I'm actually experiencing this as well. Can you give me some guidance? And it's by asking and showing vulnerability that you then get your needs met and found out what you need. So I think it's a really, really great place to start is find the people that have been through it and that can help you and you can help them.
Yeah, and even if you don't feel like you need it now, but to keep those 3 people in the back of your mind, if times do get tough, oh, I didn't know such and such, but I've met them recently. I think they're good and maybe they can be sort of in my little list of people to reach out to if and when I need to.
Yep, bingo. Exactly. And I think that's great in that it's proactive. Proactive, so that when the shit does hit the fan, or is there a crisis moment, or is there a wobble, you go, where's that list? Who is that list? You go bang, bang, bang.
Yep.
You don't have to think about it again. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good proactive measure that people could do right now.
And definitely, like you said, that list is constantly evolving. There's people that I used to speak to every day on the phone. Now they've got 2 kids. I'll ring him. He doesn't ring me back straight away. He's got 2 kids. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't mean that he doesn't care, but it just means that times are different. You know, is that person there on that list? Maybe they are, but maybe they're down a couple of rungs because you know that they're not always accessible.
Exactly. It's like that could be on a plane. You could be on a plane. Whatever it is, like, I think it's a really good insight as well, mate, is like, yeah, people have got their own shit going on. It doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean that they can't care. It doesn't mean that they don't love or can't love you. But at that time, yeah, they've just got a bit of stuff going on. It's bath time. It's feeding time. Whatever it is. So, yeah, have the other people ready to go.
We haven't spoken about this at all yet, but medication. That's something we haven't spoken about. It obviously has its place, but it also has its pros and cons as well.
Have you? Can I ask about medication?
Yeah,
with you?
So
yep.
I'm on antidepressant medication now.
Yep.
And I've been on and off it for about 25 years. My mum died very suddenly. There's some trauma attached to all of that, and there's parts of my life where I was okay, but then the highs and lows and blah, blah, blah. At this point in time, I'm back on that medication, which helps stabilize me. In the last 12 months or so, I've had a few breakdowns with certain, financial situation. We talked about post-COVID, a lot of different stuff going on. So I wanted that stabilization. So I am back on it now. But for the last 25 years, I've been on it and off it and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't talk about that very often, but I'm being honest.
Do you want to keep talking about it, or do you?
Oh, yeah. You asked, so that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah. So I think, well, I'll question. The question is like, well, what do you think about medication?
Well, I think it's helpful, and I think there is pros and cons, and you've got to find the right medication. It's not always the right answer, I don't think, for people. It can stabilize you too much. I think people that are very highly medicated, I'll talk to some of them on this show where I'll know that they're not quite themselves because they're very highly medicated. I'd see it with people I went to school with, and I know they got very depressed, and I'd see them outside of school and they were a shell of themselves, maybe because of some of the stuff they went through, but also because I think they're so highly medicated that they lose their sense of highs and lows, which is what a lot of the medication is trying to do, but maybe it does it too much. There's no right or wrong answer. Some people it agrees with, some people it doesn't.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. And you're more qualified to speak on medication than I am because I haven't been taking antidepressants for 20, 25 years. So I think... It's
not the whole time, it's been...
Yeah, on and off, sorry. And I think it's you said some really good stuff in there, is that I think it's worth trying. It's worth trying if there's a way to get help, and even if that is through medication paired with some other mental health professionals. I think it's obviously going to be worth a go. There's enough evidence just in what you've said that it can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that some of the negatives behind it is that it doesn't work for people straight away, or some medications work for some people, some don't. I think, and for people that I know that have much more severe depression and anxiety than I do, it's a real trial and error game to get their medication to the right dose, the right kind of medication, and then if you've got multiple conditions, you've got to make sure they don't counterbalance each other. You can't just take it and the next day it works. You need to give it like a month, and then you've got to wean on it. That can trouble people as well.
Yeah, I think it can be tricky and it can be nuanced because you mentioned, if you've got numerous things going on and numerous medications clashing, that could be a thing. It's probably another way to think about this is that when we go and find a therapist, it might need one or two goes to figure out if we like them and if they like us, because that actually the bit of a side note, but the rapport with your therapist is actually the biggest thing that you need to get right before anything else. That's the thing that's going to help you the most. So it's similar with medication. If you can try and be patient with the medication, then that's going to give yourself the best chance. But if you're patient and communicating what's going on with the right professional, whether it's GP or psychiatrist, then you're giving yourself the best chance. But to say that it doesn't work after a couple of weeks, I think that's very important too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know some people that just want to go through more natural ways and they think that any kind of pharmaceuticals are bad, which is fine. I'm sure that people can meditate, they can breathe. There's a lot of different stuff that you can do to try and help yourself. But if medication works for you, I'm like, well, go for it. And I often go through these stages where I will get severely depressed and have some breakdowns. I'll get on the medication. I'll be on it for quite a while and then I'll wean myself off it. And this cycle seems to kind of continue, but life throws stuff at you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think if people are taking medication for diabetes, heart disease, why can't we take it for mental illness? And I think there's a big stigma associated with medication in this area because for a long time it was probably called like crazy pills.
Yeah.
And like, of course it's got a back. Of course it's a few steps back from other medications because it's been neglected and it's been taboo and it's been a dirty word. So that's why I think we're not taking it as serious as we would other medications because it's for our mental health. Another thing that's been put on the back burner for too long and, you know, we wonder why we're in this crisis or predicament or whatever it is. It's because we haven't been speaking about it properly. So the more people that ask questions like that, like you did about medication, the better it is because there's going to be people listening to this that have been oohing and ahhing about medication and going, fuck, maybe I should go to the GP and maybe I should try it.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
No, and I think it is, even if you are feeling really down and really depressed and you think that is a chemical imbalance and all you need to do is take a pill once a day, which can right that, it's an easy fix for some people. And that's for some people, and they're lucky, that's all it is. They don't have to worry about too much of the other stuff. If that is a medical thing, but also if you're just going through a really tough time and that'll help regulate your emotions for a while until you can get through that tough time, then I think it's valuable as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Give yourself a fighting chance to get through that tough time. And if it means, a course of whatever medication it is, then it's not a bad result.
Yeah. And at this time in society, we've got a lot of different labels and people like, there's a lot of different names for different mental conditions and all this sort of stuff. So back in the day when you said people would just go there and they've gone crazy, they need to go to a shrink and they need medication, they would have been labelled into a position of they're not mentally strong, where now we know there's lots of different conditions and there's a spectrum of different mental conditions.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And you can be mentally strong and still have a mental illness. I'm sure you've shown a lot of resilience over the journey and you've got a lot of grit and courage and all of that, but you've suffered a mental illness along the journey. So it'd be unfair for me to call you weak because you've suffered depression, but you've got all of these other attributes that make you a strong person, right?
Well, and that's the thing, and it goes back to almost the crying at the funeral stuff. You can be resilient and you can be strong and courageous for a period, but eventually everybody has a breaking point, and whether it is different things that compact on each other, eventually everyone breaks. Everyone has emotion. Anybody who says that they've never had somewhat of an emotional breakdown, either A, hasn't had much of a I'm not going to say trouble, but hasn't had the highs and lows that most people have had, or B, you're emotionally not really there, because that's part of life.
Yeah, I think we've said it before. I think the struggles are part of life, and that's okay, and it's normal. And the idea is that the struggles aren't forever, or how do we deal with the struggles as best as possible?
Uh-huh. Man, as we get close to wrapping things up, do you want to tell people about if they want to work with you, if they want to get a T-shirt, what they can do, how they can reach out and how they can be involved?
Yeah, please buy some merch because my garage is fucking full of it at the moment.
We'll put the link in the description here.
It's top quality merch. It's not something that I haven't considered in terms of its size and fit and shape and feel. It's not cheap, I know, and I know people haven't got a lot of bucks right now, so if it's not you right now, that's fine. But what I would love you to do, if you're on the website and you're a punter, I want you to go and download the Feels Wheel, and I want you to stick it on your fridge, and I want you to practice talking about your emotions and talking about your feelings, and then I want to fucking hear about it. Like, give it a month, and I want to hear how these conversations have been fostered around the dinner table or in the work truck or at the footy club or at the netball club. I don't mind where they happen. They're happening anyway. Like, the conversations are happening. How are we making them better? I want to hear how people are making them better with these Feels Wheels, and even on the back of this interview, because we've spoken about a lot and given people some great tools. Like, reach out to both of us and figure out, tell us how it's helped, because we could then double down on that and help it. And then if you're a business and you want to support your staff and empower them to undertake help-seeking behaviour and, create a more engaged and productive team, I'd love to come and chat to you about what I can do to do that.
Big or small businesses.
Big or small.
Even if you've got a cafe with 3 people, doesn't matter.
Cafe with 3 people, or a restaurant with 300. I don't mind. I talk to everyone. There are also some other great organisations down here. Like, it's okay not to be okay. You've got Speak and Share. You've got Matt LaFontaine, who set a world record the other month for doing the most amount of chin-ups. Some crazy amount, raising a heap of cash too. So there are people down on the peninsula that
I've reached out to Speak and Share. They never hit me back.
No, okay.
But I'd like to. If they're out there, Speak and Share. I've reached out to them.
Yeah. So look, if it's not me, if you don't like me, I've got a squeaky voice. I know, I get it. But if it's not me, go and talk to these cats. Like, they're really, really good. They care a shitload. They're doing some amazing work, not just down here, but I'm sure all across their socials and all across the country. And when it rolls around again, give us a follow, because when it rolls around again, there's going to be some workshops, not just for men, but for all genders, that I'd love to see you at. And you can take part in something that's really special. And I promise you, during these workshops and fundraising events, there's something that you will get out of it. Yep.
And we have been very focused on the men's side of it, because we are 2 guys, 2 men having a chat. But also, we might reinforce the point that 7 in 9 men are the ones that are suffering suicide.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm here because of Elle, and it would be, I think, disrespectful not to help people like Elle. And also for the people that aren't like Elle, that are just at their 2s and 3s and 4s out of 5s on their mental health pain scale. So women are just as important in this conversation as men. All genders are welcome into these types of conversations. Women are typically ahead of the game than men. So they're very good to have around, because they can model it for us. And we get to see and hear and feel what it is like to be in these conversations. So it's very important to have everyone around in this. This is not about just about men, but while we are affected maybe more than women in the suicide stats, this is for everyone. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very well said, man. Well, I would really like you to come back in a couple of months. We can have another chat and not so much talk about your story, but we can potentially talk about other people, maybe the people that have reached out to us, and how we're trying to not fix the problem, but help it.
We're here to fix the mental health issue. We're not here to fix anyone else's problems. Yeah, and shoot some ideas around. Like, if you're listening to this and you think we're full of shit, tell us. But if you think we're full of shit and you've got a response and an answer or a solution, like let's get the ideas flowing. I'm just one guy. These are my ideas. Like, whoever's listening out there, what are your ideas? Like, and let's combine and build this together.
For sure. Man, I appreciate you coming in. Thanks for taking the time.
Mate, thanks for having me. That's been really great. And thanks for just shedding a light on mental health and putting it out there where, you could have got anyone, but luckily you got me, and we're able to shoot the breeze for that, and
man,
hopefully
I want
help
you to
some
be
people.
Somewhat of a regular. Come back here and let's have a chat every couple of months.
Cool. Let's try and make that happen.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, my man.
3,000.